Hi everyone and welcome back to Elite Rugby SandC YouTube page. My name is Coach Kieren and it's awesome to have you here today. So we have another video installed for you today, but before we get started, make sure that you subscribe, like and hit that alert button so you never miss a video here at Elite Rugby SandC. And if you do like what you see, make sure you visit our Instagram page and also listen to our podcast as well. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the Wallabies international season and giving my thoughts leading into the World Cup. We're going to talk about the negatives, the positives, and I'm also going to show you my match day 23 for the first game at the Rugby World Cup. I would also like to hear your thoughts as well, so please comment down below of what you thought of the 2022 rugby season for the Wallabies, and what's your starting 23 players for the Rugby World Cup. So let's start off with the negatives. Negative number one, we had too many injuries. I think we only had one consistent starting team in back-to-back weeks. That's just not good enough. Every other week we had to chop and change, but it was mainly due to injuries. The coaching team needs to make sure players are training at the correct dose. You know, they're getting the correct stimulus to get enough out of that training session, but to be also to recover and then be fresh and ready for test match rugby. We can't be doing these high loads, and causing all these little soft tissue injuries because we had a bunch of calf tears and hamstring tears. Those things can be managed a lot better, and I think as a coaching team, that needs to be done better. I think the Wallabies are gaining a new head of athletic performance, which is awesome. So they've gotten rid of the head of SandC for them, so they're bringing in a new one, and hopefully that person can do a better job and make sure that players are available and giving positive headaches for Dave Rennie and his coaching staff. We don't want to be going, oh, who's next up, and reaching into our fifth and sixth string player because all our players are injured, It's great that we did have players make their debuts and gain experience, but we need to do our best to make sure that our best match day 23 players are available at all times. That's not always going to be the case, and we need people to step up, but we do need our best players out there ready and available. You cannot win games or a World Cup without your best players. Negative number two, discipline. Throughout the whole year, our discipline was terrible. It seemed like every game we were giving away stupid penalties that allowed opposition teams to gain cheap territory and then ended up scoring points off penalty goals and then scoring off tries as well. But the penalty goals, we saw that in the French game. If we were a bit more disciplined, I don't think France would have had the opportunity that they had to win at the end of the game there. We also had quite a few yellow cards that cost us as well through just dumb mistakes. We need to be more disciplined as a team and not give away these cheap penalties and yellow cards. It's just simple as that. You can't give the opposition anything because all it takes is at the end of the game, as we saw this year, one try or one penalty goal and the other team wins. How do we fix the discipline? Well, it comes back to the coaching team, setting the standards on and off the field. How you train and prepare is how you play. I don't see what's going on at training or behind closed doors, but I just think everyone in Australian rugby needs to be better and raise the standard if we want to compete and win the Rugby World Cup. So that goes all the way back to our clubs now in Super Rugby land. We need to be very disciplined, but when we come back together as a group, that's when we really need to make sure that we're disciplined, we're training the right way, and then we're playing the right way as well. So negative number three, the 9-10 combination, the dreaded 9-10 combination, it seems. Dave Rennie and selectors need to decide on a clear number 9 and 10 combination heading into this World Cup. I don't mind chopping and changing every now and again, but we need to make sure that we have those players ready to go. This year we saw quite a few combinations, as I said. Chopping and changing it's just not on that much. You can do it every now and again, but it's not that much. We need to make our minds up, stick with this combination, even if it's the wrong combination. I just want to see players get a consistent opportunity to perform. We can't just give one player a go and then next week they're out. It's hard for players to build a solid connection and gain experience and be match ready if they're consistently in and out of the team, or they get hurt as well, as something we just talked about before. So get that 9-10 combination down packed and ready to go for the first game of the Rugby World Cup. Negative number 4, another key position. We need to decide who's going to be our fullback. This is a key position which, again, it's unclear of who's going to be the fullback. Is it going to be Tom Banks? Is he going to be an international player? Is it going to be Andrew Kellaway, Tom Wright, Jock Campbell, Reece Hodge? Who are you going to pick? You need to decide and allow that player to grow and gain confidence in that position, along with the 9 and 10, This is our spine now we're talking about, the spine of the team. We need those positions locked and loaded to go. Again, we can't afford to chop and change all the time. Pick your fullback, stick with it, alrighty? We've got a lot of good fullbacks there in the ones that I just named, but you just need to choose that one fullback that's going to be our fullback for the Rugby World Cup. So negative number 5, it's not really negative, but it's just, stating a point. What's going to change between now and the Rugby World Cup? We have plenty of time now to reassess what's gone wrong and be better for when that Rugby World Cup comes along. So Wallabies players will have an opportunity to rest 1 to 2 games from Super Rugby, which is great. It will hopefully allow players to be a bit more fresh and also avoid some of those injuries that may occur during the Super Rugby season. We do need a new head of performance. This will change, and it has changed. There will be a new face in that position, and that's awesome because we'll just make sure that the Wallabies players can avoid certain injuries like those calves and hamstrings, which we saw a lot this year, and just be fresh and ready to go for round 1, but also throughout the whole year as well. But what else needs to change? I want to hear your thoughts. So comment down below and tell me your thoughts on what else needs to change for Dave Rennie and the Wallabies moving forward into next year's Rugby World Cup. So we're going to put all the negatives to the side now and just focus on the positives. So let's move forward. So we're not far off. This year, we saw some really good rugby being played at times. We also did see some bad rugby being played at times. But we were able to be very competitive against the world's best rugby teams. We only just lost against Ireland. We only just lost against France. We had a really good performance against, well, not really good, but we had a good performance against Scotland. We had a really good performance against Wales, where we had multiple players injured and we were down to like 4th and 5th string players. We were very unlucky not to win against Italy, and we did make 14 changes that were not earned. In my opinion, we didn't earn the right to make those 14 changes, but we just missed out on a conversion to win the game. We were very unlucky against the All Blacks in the first game of the Bledisloe. We should have won that game. After coming back from like 25 points down, we had a really good performance against South Africa, and we played pretty well against Argentina. Not the away game, but the game that we played here in Australia. So we're not far off, when with all the injuries and chopping and changing of the starting team, we're not far off, and I'm really excited to see how this Super Rugby season goes and who's going to put their hand up to take that starting position for the Wallabies heading into the Rugby World Cup. So positive number 2, the Australia A tour. That was awesome to see that tour happen because there was many players who might not get the opportunity to play in the Wallabies, but they had the opportunity to show what they got. And it was that tour of Japan, but also playing against the Pacific nations as well. It was just great to see more athletes get opportunities at that international level. We saw players like Jock Campbell step up, Caden Neville step up, Tom Banks coming back from injury to then be able to play in that tour to then get selected for the Wallabies, which is awesome. There was many other great examples of the success with Australia A, so we need to continue that going forward because when these tours are happening, all the local competitions are done in Australia. So we need to be able to keep these players fit and healthy so that they can slot straight into the Wallabies team if injury occurs or if players just aren't up to form, and then that next player needs to come through who has been in some form as well. So let's continue the Australia A because I think it was a huge success this year. Positive number 3, depth. I think we got some pretty good depth now, In the games that we just lost in the autumn tour, we had heaps of injuries, So we had players stepping up to the mark and playing some really good rugby against some of the best rugby players in the world. So I think we got some really good depth heading into the Rugby World Cup. Players have gained some experience with that Australia A tour, but also players coming on the spring tour, the autumn tour. So I think going into this Rugby World Cup, we have some depth, and it'll be really interesting to see if all these players can really get in some good form for Super Rugby, because then there's a lot of positive headaches that Dave Rennie needs to think about in ahead of selection for the Rugby World Cup, but also in the short build up matches as well before the World Cup. So I think we got some pretty good depth. It's just we need to keep players healthy and keep players at training so that they can continue to push each other to be better and be really competitive. So more positive headaches can be created for Dave Rennie, and he just has to select the best player on that day, really. And the last positive that we're going to talk about today is we got time. We have plenty of time from now until the Rugby World Cup to decide who's going to be our starting team and who's going to be on the bench as well. We have time to rest players. We have time to prepare players, so time is on our hand. We just can't rush this process. We need to trust it. We need to allow players to be given the opportunity to perform, but also given some time to rest so that when the Rugby World Cup comes around, they're ready to go and we can start playing some of our best rugby. Alrighty, so now we're going to get into my match day 23 for the Rugby World Cup at number 1, and my captain, James Slipper. He is the best loose head prop that we have in Australian rugby. He retains the captaincy with Michael Hooper just being able to focus on rugby. That's all I want Michael to do. Number 2, it's a hard choice. I'm going to stick with Flower Fainga. I think he's a better all-round player to Dave Parecki. I think throwing ability, they're on par with each other. I just think Flower's a better ball player around the field. Number 3, tight head, I'm going to go with Alan Alatoa. I think he is just everything that you want in a rugby athlete. He's a great leader. He's a great ball carrier. He's devastating on defense and one of the best scrummagers that we have in Australia and in the world. So I think that's a really good front row that we have there. Moving on to the locks, I'm going to go with Darcy Swain and Caden Neville. I think the youth and experience of this combination is just the one that is the best in Australian rugby. Darcy is our best maul defense. He just literally has eyes like a hawk and just gets on that ball straight away when defending a maul. But again, he is also great in lineouts, leading the lineout, calling it, and he's a great all-round player on the field. I think Caden Neville complements Darcy really well, and vice versa. They're both really good at maul defense, but also getting around the park as well. I think that youth and experience, that combination, it's the best that we have in Australia. Moving on to the back row, number 6, I have Rob Leota. Hopefully he overcomes his injury that he did sustain this year, comes back better than ever, because I think having him and my number 8, Rob Valentini, are just such devastating ball runners, but also can be line-out options as well, but they're there for their devastating ball running. I love that combination of the Robs, and I think having Rob Leota at 6 and Rob Valentini at 8 is a great combination to have. And my starting number 7 is Michael Hooper, the workhorse, the heart and soul of this team. He just never gives up. He is my number 7. I'm really excited to see how he goes this Super Rugby season, as well, get some form back. All right, moving on to that 9-10 combination, a thing that I said was a negative for this year. I'm going with Nick White, the experience of Nick White. He is our best number 9 in Australian rugby. And I'm going with the youth of Noah Lolesio. I think those two are the best combination that we have. I think Noah has not been given the opportunity he deserves, and he deserves to be the starting number 10 heading into the Rugby World Cup. He's got a great kicking game. His goal kicking has improved immensely, but he also has that X factor that I don't think Quaid has anymore, and I don't think Bernard Foley has that either. So I'm going with Nick and Noah as my number 9 and 10. All right, now we're moving into our 12-13 combination, and no surprises here. We're going to go with Samu Karevi and Len Ikitau. It's going to be great to see Samu Karevi come back from that knee injury. Hopefully he's in fit and strong form, which I know he's going to be. Him and Len are just really good, and they complement each other very well. Samu can take it up while Len can then, skip to the outside and create that 2-on-1 overlap and put one of our wingers through a hole and potentially scoring. And just defensively as well, Len is just such devastating on defense. He is one of the best tacklers in Australian rugby. And like I said, that 12-13 combination of Samo and Lenny, it's something that we need, and I'm really excited to see that next year. Moving on to our wingers, again, no surprises at number 11, Marika Korobiti, our best winger, and he's just been in sensational form. I'm really excited to see how he goes again, and he is, along with Michael Hooper, just the heart and soul of this team. He is the heart and soul of the back line and just gives 100% to every single thing that he does. He's speedful. He's very speedy. He just bounces off you like a pinball. And yeah, he definitely deserves that number 11 jersey. Number 14, I'm going to go with Tom Wright. I think he is something different to the wingers that we've had here in Australia. Like, he does stuff that no other winger really does. He backs himself. And I love that. He'll back himself to get around the player or try something tricky. And majority of the time, it's paying off. So I think he deserves to be there because he's been in the team this year for the Wallabies throughout. He's also had opportunities at 15, which I thought he did play well at 15. But he definitely deserves that number 14 jersey heading into the World Cup. Number 15, another negative that we talked about, but again, this is probably the hardest decision that I had to make, but I'm going to go with Jock Campbell. I think Jock takes his game to the next level this Super Rugby season, has an outstanding season, has some really good build-up matches in those test matches, and then earns the right to be the starting 15 heading into this World Cup. He is young, but along with Tom Wright, I think he has X Factor. I think he has X Factor ability to be able to be so elusive and put himself in the right positions to be a threat out there on the field. And I trust him. I was really impressed with the Super Rugby he played in 2022, and I was really impressed with the Australia A Tour as well. So he is my starting 15. Alrighty, moving on to the bench. Again, that reserve hooker, it's a positive headache. You're scratching your head, who am I going to put? I'm going to go with Lachie Lonergan. Unfortunately, Dave misses out on my starting 23. I'm going to put Lachie Lonergan there just because I think he is so speedy and powerful around the park. For that last, say, 30, 20 minutes, he will just inject himself and just be a workhorse. Really good throwing ability. And he deserves, he really does deserve that 16 with that performance that he had against Wales to end the year for the Wallabies. Number 17, Angus Bell, coming back from injury. He's going to be better than ever. And he is literally in line to take James Slipper's spot very soon. It's just he hasn't got there just yet. He is great, awesome player, awesome individual, and he's going to come off the bench and give that spark, that youth that we need out there to finish the game. Number 18, it really depends on availability. For this one, you're going to have the Tongan Thor there if you can, Taniela, if he's available and has overcome that Achilles injury. But if he is not ready to go, I'm going to be picking Harry Johnson-Holmes. Again, he has been injured, and hopefully he comes back as well. So either way, you got to have very solid scrummages. I think Harry is a better scrummager and also can play loose head as well, which is really important just in case someone does go down there. So it's a positive headache, and I think I'm going to go with maybe Harry on the bench. But if Tongan Thor has been playing really good Super Rugby and is match fit, he does come in there because he is just a devastating ball carrier and scrummager when he is on his best game. Number 19, Nick Frost. Probably a player who just stood up for the Wallabies in 2022 season. He is incredible. He's so fit around the park. He's got some great ball handling skills. He has shown he can lead the line out as well. So he's so versatile as well, being able to play number 6. So he earns the right to be on the bench as my lock/6 as well. Number 20, Pete Samu. You cannot deny this man. He is Pistol Pete. He is just in great form. And he's going to be in great form again for the Brumbies in the 2023 Super Rugby season. And he's just going to be there, and he's just going to add that. Again, I'm using this word a lot, but X Factor. He's got that. He is that man. He is that person to be able to come off the bench, add the spark, and just also be able to lead the team as well. Maybe not by words, but by his actions, he will lead the team. Number 21, the reserve halfback, Tate McDermott. Tate McDermott is the second best halfback in Australian rugby. He's very elusive. He's quick to the ball. He's getting that ball out, and he's got great decision-making skills. He is better than Jake Gordon. I can't stress that enough. Nothing against you, Jake. It's just Tate is better. So Tate deserves that spot, and he is going to, again, come off that bench and add a spark, and the spark that we need to finish the game off. Number 22, I'm going to go with Fekete as my utility back. I think him being on the bench again over Hunter, I think Lalakai Fekete is just a better player, an all-round player. You can play 12, 13 like Hunter, but I think I've just seen a bit more from Fekete, and he stood up and really taken the opportunity as well. It's just unlucky that he did get hurt against France. If someone does get hurt, you know, we have been playing a number 10 on the bench for the last several games. I'm not going with that because my number 23 is Reece Hodge, because he can slot into 10. If you don't want him at 10, you could also put in Len Ikitau, who could potentially play 10 for the rest of the game as well. He's got that ability to be able to play 10, and many times at Brumbies, he's been playing that first playmaker position as well. So I think that bench complements the starting players really well, and will add a lot of spark coming off the bench and finish the game really, really well. So that's my match day 23. Please comment below what you thought. Show me what your match day 23, and let's have that discussion, because this is just my opinion, you know, and from what I've seen, I'm really interested to see what you, the listener, what changes are you going to make, you know, what hard decisions are you going to make to that to your starting team to be ready for round number 1 of the Rugby World Cup. So thanks for watching another video here at Elite Rugby SandC. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and hit that alert button so you never miss a video here at Elite Rugby SandC. Make sure you comment below and share your thoughts of what we talked about here today, and also share your match day 23 heading into the Rugby World Cup. And remember, if you do like what you see here today, make sure you visit our Instagram page and also listen to our podcast. We've got a bunch of free content out there that I know you will like. That's everything that I got today, team. See you next time.